In 1988, a 29-year-old traffic officer wrapped up her shift and headed home, but minutes later, she simply vanished. Her patrol car was found on a dark roadside, engine still running, driver's door open, her coffee still steaming inside. But she wasn't there. No struggle, no clues, just gone. For years, investigators searched rivers, woods, and highways. Every tip collapsed. Every hope faded. Her family lived with a nightmare, a loved one missing with no answers. And then, nearly 19 years later, a young boy playing near a riverbank spotted something sticking out of the mud. At first, it looked like trash, but when police arrived, they realized it was something else, something that would blow this case wide open. What they uncovered next revealed a truth no one was ready for. If you want to know how this mystery finally ends, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? It's the night of April 14th, 1988, a normal night in a small town. The late shift is ending and officers are wrapping up their paperwork. Inside the station, the mood is light. People are joking, talking about weekend plans and ready to head home. Among them is Officer Corinne Mills. She's 29 years old, well-liked, and known for being reliable. That night, she's in good spirits. She laughs with another officer about a funny traffic stop earlier. She mentions being tired, but also says she can't wait to get home, make tea, and watch her favorite TV show before bed. Her coworkers see nothing unusual. No signs of stress. No problems. Just another normal shift. She turns in a few reports, signs off on patrol logs, and gathers her things. Corinne steps outside into the cool spring night. The parking lot is quiet. She walks to her patrol car, opens the door, and places her hat on the passenger seat. She checks her radio, sips from her half-finished coffee, and starts the engine. Before pulling out, she waves to two fellow officers heading to their cars. They wave back. Nobody knows it's the last time they'll ever see her alive. At 11:47 p.m., Corinne drives out of the station lot. Her route home is short, maybe 20 minutes at most. She's done it hundreds of times. The streets are nearly empty, just a few cars moving slowly through town. For Corinne, this night feels no different than any other. But within an hour, the town will be in shock. And by morning, headlines will cover the state. The simple drive home will turn into one of the most haunting mysteries this town has ever faced. At 11:56 p.m., just a few miles into her drive, Corinne reaches for her radio. Her voice is calm, casual. She tells dispatch she's clear from her shift and heading home. It's routine, every officer does it. The dispatcher responds with a quick acknowledgement, then moves on to other chatter. It seems like nothing, just a simple exchange. But it's the last time anyone will ever hear Corinne's voice. Minutes later, the dispatcher tries to reach her again. No reply. At first, it doesn't raise alarms. Radios cut out sometimes. Maybe she was out of range. Maybe she was busy. But as the clock ticks past midnight, unease begins to grow. Corinne still hasn't checked in. Other units are on the road, but none spot her car. The dispatcher keeps trying, calling her name again and again. Each time, silence. Around 12:20 a.m., an officer driving through a quiet stretch of road sees something strange up ahead. A patrol car parked oddly on the shoulder. Lights off. Engine still running. The officer slows down, shines a flashlight, and realizes it's Corinne's car. He steps out, approaches carefully, and immediately feels something is wrong. The driver's door is slightly open. Inside, her coffee cup is sitting in the holder, still half full. Her hat rests on the seat. The keys are in the ignition. Her radio is there too. But Corinne is gone. No struggle, no blood, no sign she walked off. It looks like she just vanished in the middle of her shift. The officer calls it in immediately. Within minutes, more units arrive. Flashlights sweep across the empty road. Radios buzz with tension. The silence of the night feels heavier now, as if the whole town is holding its breath. Something terrible has happened. By sunrise, the news will spread everywhere. A uniformed officer has disappeared without a trace. And no one knows why. The officer who spots the car knows instantly that something is wrong. It's around 12:20 a.m., and the stretch of road is almost completely empty. There's no reason for Karen's patrol car to be sitting there with its engine running, lights off, and door ajar. He parks behind it, steps out, and approaches carefully. His flashlight beam cuts across the inside of the car. Right away, his stomach sinks. Her hat is on the passenger seat. The keys are still in the ignition. The radio is powered on. A cup of coffee rests in the holder, steam long gone but still half full. Everything looks like she just stepped out for a second. But Karen isn't there. He calls out her name into the night. Nothing, just the hum of the idling engine. By now, other patrol units are alerted. One by one, they arrive and surround the scene. Flashlights scan the ditches, the tree line, the road. The area is dead quiet. No skid marks. No broken glass. No signs of anyone else around. The officers feel a cold chill. A uniformed cop doesn't just walk off in the middle of the night and leave her car running. Something serious has happened here. The first officer radios in. Her vehicle here, she's not. The dispatcher's reply is tense. Copy, all units respond. The road is shut down. Search teams begin spreading out, but deep down, the officers know the truth. Karen hasn't just gone missing. Something has taken her. Investigators swarm the patrol car within the hour. They treat it as a possible crime scene. Photos are taken, every angle documented. Evidence markers go down one by one. The engine is still warm when they arrive, which means Karen couldn't have been gone for long. Yet she's nowhere in sight. They check inside. Her duty belt is missing, meaning she likely had it on her, but everything else is untouched. The keys remain in the ignition. The radio sits on the seat. Her coffee cup still rests in the holder. Nothing is broken, nothing is tossed around. If this was an attack, where's the struggle? No scratches, no blood, no sign of a fight. It's as if she simply disappeared into thin air. Detectives expand their search outward. They shine spotlights across the grass and along the ditch. Tire tracks are examined, but none seem fresh. A K-9 unit is brought in. The dog circles the area, picks up a faint scent, but loses it quickly near the edge of the woods. The lack of evidence only makes things scarier. Everyone expected to find some clue, a sign of where she went, or who might have taken her. Instead, the car is as neat as it was when she left the station earlier that night. By dawn, officers are exhausted. The scene is logged, the car is towed, and reports are written. But there are no real answers. For her family, the phone rings with the call they feared most. Karen is missing. For her fellow officers, the feeling is even worse. If someone could make a traffic officer vanish without a trace, it meant the threat was bigger than they ever imagined. This isn't just a disappearance, it's a nightmare. Within hours of finding Karen's abandoned patrol car, the search begins. The police know they have no time to waste. Every available officer is called in. Volunteers from town join in, grabbing flashlights, boots, and jackets. The night sky is moonless, and the countryside is pitch black. Flashlight beams sweep across fields and ditches, cutting through the darkness like thin knives of light. Officers call her name again and again, their voices echoing into the empty woods. K-9 units are deployed. The dogs sniff the ground around her car, noses pressed to the dirt, pulling handlers toward faint trails. For a moment, it seems they've caught something. But the scent fades within minutes, leading nowhere. The search spreads to the river nearby. Boats are launched, dragging equipment through the water. Officers lean over the edge, scanning the surface with spotlights. Nothing, not even a scrap of fabric. Helicopters take to the air at dawn, hovering low and sweeping the fields. From above, searchers hope to spot something the ground teams missed. But the wide view only shows the same thing. Endless trees, endless grass, endless nothing. The search grows more desperate. Every fence line, every barn, every stretch of dirt road is walked. Volunteers carry lanterns. Farmers open their land to officers. Whole families show up, hoping they'll be the ones to bring Karen home. But by sunrise, there's still no trace. No footprints, no clothing, no sounds in the woods. It's as if the earth swallowed her whole. By morning briefing, officers gather in silence, faces pale from exhaustion. One deputy says quietly, "She's gone." Nobody answers. Nobody wants to believe it. But after hours of searching, the reality is setting in. Karen has vanished and no one knows how. Word spreads fast. By the next morning, everyone in town knows. The local radio station interrupts its music to share the news. A traffic officer disappeared overnight. At the diner, people whisper at tables. At the gas station, customers stand in shock. For many, Karen wasn't just a cop, she was a neighbor, a friend, the person who waved them through crosswalks or stopped to help change a tire. The town can't believe it. If someone could take a uniformed officer, armed and trained, what did that mean for everyone else? People start locking doors that were never locked before. Parents keep kids home from school. The usual calm of the town is gone, replaced with fear and suspicion. Crowds gather outside the police station demanding answers. But the truth is, there aren't any. Officers can only say they're searching every road, every river, every patch of woods. Reporters arrive from bigger cities, pointing cameras at the small-town streets. Headlines hit the evening news. Officer missing, no leads. Karen's family appears in front of cameras, begging anyone with information to come forward. Her mother's voice shakes as she says, "Please, help us bring her home." But beneath the search, beneath the press conferences, a darker question runs through every conversation. If someone could make Karen Mills disappear without leaving a single clue, then who was safe anymore? When the knock comes at the Mills family's door, it's still dark outside. Karen's parents open it to find two officers standing there, hats in their hands, faces heavy. At first they think it's a mistake. Maybe Karen was in a car accident. Maybe she's hurt, maybe at a hospital. But when the officers speak, the words don't make sense. Karen is missing. Her mother freezes, staring blankly. Her father shakes his head, refusing to accept it. "What do you mean missing? She's a police officer. She has a gun. She has a car. She doesn't just disappear." But the officers have no answers. They explain about the car, found on the roadside, engine running, door open. No Karen inside. Karen's younger sister bursts into tears, crying out that it has to be wrong. Her brother paces the living room, demanding details, his voice rising. But the truth doesn't change. The family's home, once filled with warmth, feels suddenly hollow. Her mother clutches a framed photo of Karen in uniform, whispering that she'll come back. Her father sinks into a chair, silent, staring at the floor. Fear mixes with disbelief. They know Karen. She would never run away. She would never leave her car, her job, or her family. Something terrible has happened, and deep down they feel it. By morning, the Mills family is surrounded by relatives, neighbors, and friends. But even with people all around them, they feel alone. For them, the nightmare has only begun. By the next morning, the news has reached every corner of town. Officer Karen Mills is missing. Her patrol car was found running, but she was gone. The reaction is immediate. People who normally feel safe in this small community suddenly feel exposed. The thought runs through everyone's mind. If an armed officer can vanish without a trace, what chance do the rest of us have? Neighbors who always left doors unlocked now rush to lock them. Store owners check security cameras. Farmers walk their property lines with flashlights. Parents keep children home from school, saying they won't take risks. At the grocery store, customers whisper nervously in the aisles. At the diner, groups gather in hushed tones, staring at the morning paper. Some people are angry, demanding answers. Others are simply terrified. Local churches hold emergency prayer services. Entire families pack into pews, heads bowed, praying for Karen's safe return. But beneath the prayers is a heavy silence, a fear no one can put into words. By sunset, the town feels different. Streets that were once full of kids riding bikes now sit empty. Porch lights glow on every home. The sense of safety, something people once took for granted, is gone. And as night falls, the fear only grows stronger. Police leaders know the community is scared. They double patrols, sending marked cars down every street. Officers stop to speak with neighbors, reminding them to stay inside and lock up. Knocks echo on doors across town. Residents peek out nervously before opening them. Officers repeat the same warning: "Don't walk alone. If you see anything strange, call us right away." Everywhere they go, they see the same look: fear. Some residents whisper that maybe Karen stumbled onto something she wasn't supposed to. Others think she was targeted because she wore the badge. Nobody knows the truth, but everyone is guessing. Helicopters sweep the skies at night, their spotlights cutting across fields. Police dogs search yards and woods again, but nothing turns up. The silence of failure weighs heavy on the officers. At night, neighbors call each other to check in. Parents tell kids not to answer the door, even if it's someone they know. The idea that a cop could disappear has broken the trust everyone once had in their little town. For investigators, the pressure is intense. For the town, the fear is overwhelming. And for Karen's family, the nightmare deepens. By the weekend, the search explodes in size. It's no longer just police officers and a few neighbors. Now, hundreds of volunteers pour in from surrounding towns. Farmers, teachers, shop owners, even teenagers with flashlights line up shoulder to shoulder. The command post is set up in the town square. Maps are spread out on tables. Teams are assigned grids, woods, fields, and riverbanks, each area combed inch by inch. Rivers are dragged with heavy equipment. Boats move slowly through the water, hooks scraping along the bottom. Helicopters fly overhead, sweeping the ground with spotlights. In the woods, search dogs bark and pull, sniffing for any trace of Karen. Volunteers call her name again and again, their voices echoing through the trees. Everyone hopes for even the smallest clue, a footprint, a piece of fabric, anything. But day after day, nothing surfaces. Exhaustion sets in, but no one wants to quit. People bring food, water, and blankets to keep the searchers going. The town comes together like never before. Still, the emptiness in every field and every riverbank feels like a cruel answer. It's as though Karen simply vanished off the face of the earth. When physical searches fail, detectives turn their focus to Karen's personal life. They begin with her coworkers at the station. Officers are interviewed one by one. Was she acting strange? Did she mention being followed? Did she have problems with anyone she arrested? The answers are the same. Karen was steady, professional, and well-liked. She never complained about threats. Detectives expand to her circle of friends. They knock on doors, asking neighbors about her habits. Did she go out late? Did she keep secrets? Was she seeing someone in private? Most say no. Karen was responsible, close with her family, and dedicated to the job. But whispers begin to spread anyway. Some claim she had enemies from arrests. Others suggest she might have stumbled onto something bigger during patrol. Detectives also look at her routine. Same shifts, same drive home. Was someone watching her, waiting for her? The interviews pile up, but answers do not. Everyone seems shocked, scared, and just as confused as the police. By the end of that week, investigators are left with two terrifying possibilities. Either Karen was targeted for who she was, or she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Both options leave the same chilling truth. Anyone could be next. As days pass with no answers, rumors begin to spread like wildfire. At the diner, someone whispers that Karen must have been targeted because she was a cop. Maybe someone she arrested wanted revenge. At the grocery store, another voice says she must have stumbled onto something dangerous during patrol, maybe drugs, maybe a secret meeting. Soon, the whispers turn into full-blown theories. Some believe a stranger came into town and picked her at random. Others are certain it had to be someone close, someone who knew her routine. Suspicion grows heavier each day. Even neighbors begin eyeing each other with doubt. The quiet man down the street, the new couple in town, the coworker who seemed nervous. Everyone becomes a possible suspect in someone's story. Police try to calm the town, but their silence only fuels the talk. Every unanswered question adds more fuel to the fire. And the truth is, detectives don't know any more than the public does. For Karen's family, the rumors are cruel. Each time they step outside, they hear whispers about what might have happened to her. None of it helps. None of it brings her home. But in the absence of real answers, rumors become the town's new reality. It doesn't take long for the story to reach beyond the small town. National outlets grab hold of it, turning Karen's disappearance into headline news. Officer VANISHES without a trace, one paper screams. Another headline reads, small town shaken, Where is Karen Mills? TV trucks roll into town, cameras pointing at every street corner. Reporters crowd in front of the police station, shouting questions at detectives who refuse to answer. Every briefing draws bigger and bigger crowds. Karen's photo appears on every screen, her smile frozen in time. News anchors describe her as dedicated, respected, and loved by her community. But behind the kind words is the same hook, the mystery of how a uniformed officer could simply disappear. The national spotlight brings pressure. More volunteers pour in to help search, but it also brings chaos. Outsiders flood the streets, chasing rumors, knocking on doors, and demanding answers. For the town, it feels like their tragedy has become a spectacle. For Karen's family, it's worse. Their private grief is now broadcast for the entire country to see. But the media attention has one effect nobody can deny. The whole nation is now watching, waiting for answers that never seem to come. The Mills family never imagined they'd be standing in front of cameras, begging for help. But that's exactly where they find themselves. Karen's mother clutches a framed photo of her daughter in uniform. Her father stands stiff, jaw tight, fighting back tears. Beside them, Karen's younger sister trembles, trying to stay strong under the glare of the lights. The microphones crowd in. Reporters ask if they believe Karen is still alive. Her mother's voice shakes as she says, "Please, if anyone knows anything, please bring my daughter home. We just want her back." Her father adds a few short words. "She's a good cop, a good daughter. Someone out there knows what happened. Please do the right thing." The family's pain spills through every word. Viewers across the country feel it. On television, Karen's smile flashes again and again next to the bold caption, "Missing Officer." For the family, it's unbearable to stand there, knowing so little. They are desperate, clinging to any chance that someone, somewhere, might see the broadcast and come forward. But when the lights shut off and the reporters leave, the Mills family is left in silence. The hope they show on camera hides the truth they fear inside, that time is slipping away. Weeks pass and the once massive search begins to shrink. The lines of volunteers grow shorter. The helicopters stop flying overhead. The dogs are sent back to their handlers. People want answers, but life slowly pulls them back to routine. Families need to work. Kids return to school. The town can't stay frozen forever. For the Mills family, though, nothing feels normal. Every day without Karen is torture. They keep her picture in the window, waiting for her to come home. But each night, the silence grows heavier. Detectives keep chasing leads, but every tip ends the same way, a dead end. Karen isn't found in the rivers, the fields, or the woods. It's as if she vanished into thin air. The hope that burned bright at the start begins to flicker out. People stop believing she'll walk back through the door. Instead, they whisper about the worst possibilities, too afraid to say them out loud. For the first time since the night she disappeared, dread outweighs hope. As the weeks turn into months, the town grows quiet. The search parties that once filled the woods and rivers shrink away. Patrol cars no longer swarm the roads with urgency. Now it's just routine checks, a quick drive past the riverbank, a glance into the fields. The missing posters that once covered every shop window start to fade. Rain and sun wash the ink until Karen's face looks blurry, almost like the case itself. At first, people kept asking questions, but now conversations trail off. Some don't want to bring up the pain. Others simply believe nothing will ever change. Inside the police station, Karen's file sits thick on a desk, full of notes and reports. Detectives still open it, hoping something new will spark, but day after day it's the same. No clues, no leads, just silence. For Karen's family, silence is the cruelest thing. Every time the phone rings, they hope it's the call, the breakthrough. But it's never that. It's bills, wrong numbers, or family checking in. Months of silence leave everyone with the same chilling thought. Karen didn't just disappear. Someone made her vanish. And whoever did it is still out there. Even though the official search slows down, tips never stop coming. Every day, the phone at the station rings with new claims. One caller says, "I saw her near a gas station last week." Another swears she was walking along the highway alone, looking lost. Some even insist she ran off to start a new life. Each time, detectives take it seriously. They drive out, knock on doors, check security cameras, talk to anyone nearby, but every single lead crumbles. The woman at the gas station wasn't Corinne. The person on the highway was a stranger passing through. The runaway theory has no proof at all. Over and over, detectives chase shadows. Each failed tip wastes time and drains hope. For Corinne's family, the false leads cut deep. Every time they hear possible sighting, their hearts rise and then break again when it's nothing. By the end of the year, detectives have followed hundreds of calls, each one leading nowhere. It feels like the case is slipping further out of reach. And in the back of everyone's mind, the same question grows louder. Was Corinne ever alive after that night, or is the truth buried somewhere they haven't found? While the town starts to move on, Corinne's family refuses to let her memory fade. Her mother places a photo of Corinne in the front window, where the sun catches it every morning. Anyone passing by can see her smile, frozen in time, staring out at the street. The family prints new flyers, replacing the old ones that have curled and faded. They drive to nearby towns, tapping them on poles, slipping them under doors, and handing them out at gas stations. Every morning, Corinne's father calls the investigators. Sometimes he asks if there are new leads. Other times he just wants to make sure they haven't forgotten. The answer is always the same. We're doing everything we can. But the family knows momentum is fading, so they beg people to remember. They tell reporters, she's not just a missing officer. She's a daughter, a sister, a friend. At night, the house feels heavier. Her empty room is still untouched, like she might walk back in at any moment. For the Mills family, every day is the same battle. Keep Corinne alive in people's hearts, or risk losing her to silence. Inside the station, detectives gather around the case file again and again. With each passing month, their theories grow darker. Was Corinne targeted at random? Could someone have spotted her patrol car, waited for the right moment, and struck? The idea of a stranger hunting her chills the room. But then another thought creeps in. What if this wasn't random at all? What if she was stalked for weeks? Someone could have tracked her routes, learned her habits, and chosen the exact moment to strike. That possibility feels even worse, because it means she never stood a chance. Detectives also look at her past arrests. She had dealt with drunk drivers, violent disputes, and men who didn't like being told no. Could one of them have been waiting for revenge? Every theory feels heavy, but none of them can be proved. There's no evidence, no witnesses, no confession, just a car on the side of the road and a woman who never came home. The longer it drags on, the more chilling the questions become. And the hardest part is knowing the answer is out there, but hidden just out of reach. Detectives begin digging through Corinne's old arrest records. She had been on the force long enough to make plenty of enemies. There were drug busts, violent fights, and arrests that left people furious. Some swore they'd get even one day. At the time, those words felt like empty threats. Now, investigators wonder if someone actually meant them. They pull up files on the most dangerous offenders. One man had attacked a neighbor with a knife. Another was arrested for beating his wife. Both had histories of violence and grudges against police. Each file is reread, every detail checked. Detectives knock on doors, re-interviewing these men. Where were you the night Officer Mills disappeared? Some alibis check out. Others are shaky, but nothing solid links them to the crime. It's frustrating. The idea of revenge feels possible. Corinne was strong, but if someone caught her off guard, it could explain the sudden vanishing. Still, there's no weapon, no DNA, no clue tying any of them to her missing car. One by one, the suspects fade back into the shadows. The theory of an enemy in uniform is strong, but without proof, it's just another dead end. Months have stretched into years, and detectives finally face the truth. Every theory is collapsing. They've looked at random attackers, stalkers, and old enemies. They've checked files, chased tips, and re-interviewed everyone close to Corinne. And yet, the result is the same. Nothing. No DNA, no fingerprints, no weapon, no body. The patrol car remains the only real clue, sitting in evidence storage, holding no secrets. It's like the world swallowed Corinne whole. Detectives admit among themselves that they are chasing shadows. Each lead feels like smoke, there for a moment, then gone. The case that once brought hundreds of searchers and national headlines is now quietly slipping into the cold files. For Corinne's family, that reality is unbearable. They see the investigators' energy fading, even as they fight to keep her memory alive. By the early 1990s, the silence is complete. Corinne Mills is gone. The file remains open, but the truth feels farther away than ever. At the station, the mood is heavier than anyone can remember. Every morning, roll call takes place. Names are read aloud, one by one. But when they reach Officer Corinne Mills, there is only silence. Her chair sits empty, her locker untouched. Her fellow officers feel powerless. They're trained to protect the community, to guard against threats. But here, they couldn't even protect one of their own. That thought eats at them every day. Some keep replaying the night in their heads. What if I had been on that route? What if I had checked on her sooner? The guilt lingers, even though no one knows what really happened. At night, officers gather in the break room, staring at her photo pinned to the board. They speak less now. The usual laughter is gone. The silence says everything. For the department, this isn't just an unsolved case. It's a wound that won't heal. They wear the badge, but deep down, they all wonder, if Corinne could vanish so suddenly, what chance do any of them really have? It is more than a mystery now. It's a failure they'll carry for years. For the Mills family, the calendar becomes a cruel reminder. Every birthday, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, they set the table. And every time, one chair stays empty. Her mother places Corinne's favorite plate in front of that chair. Her father keeps pouring water into her glass, even though he knows it won't be touched. They can't stop themselves. It's their way of keeping her close, even when the silence hurts. During Christmas, they hang her stocking by the fireplace. Her siblings write her name on cards and place them under the tree. Each gift is small, simple, and unopened. Year after year, the gifts pile up. On birthdays, the family gathers for cake. They sing the song, but the sound is weak, filled with tears. Her chair is always there, untouched. Friends visit and try to bring comfort, but the weight never lifts. Every holiday becomes the same haunting scene. Laughter forced, smiles broken. The missing piece of the family felt everywhere. Time passes, but the empty chair never changes. It sits at the table like a scar that refuses to heal. To the Mills family, Corinne isn't gone. She's just missing from the seat that waits for her. Years pass. Corinne's siblings grow older, moving through school, jobs, and milestones. There are graduations, weddings, and Bobby's born, but every event feels off balance, like a piece of the puzzle is gone. Her parents attend these milestones with smiles that never reach their eyes. When a grandchild is born, they celebrate, but inside they ache. Corinne should be there, holding the baby too. Each passing year adds more distance, but the pain never softens. At family gatherings, someone always brings her up. Corinne would have loved this. Or, remember when Corinne used to. The stories keep her alive, but they also keep the wound open. Neighbors move away. New families arrive in town. Slowly, people outside the family stop talking about her. For the Mills household, though, she is always present. They keep her room neat, her photo on the wall, her memory alive. Life goes on, but the ache stays. Every milestone, no matter how joyful, carries the same shadow. Corinne should have been here. As the years roll forward, the case changes hands again and again. Every few years, a new detective takes over, full of determination. The first thing they do is pull the thick file from storage. Inside are pages of reports, interviews, maps, and photos. The detective spends weeks going through it all. They mark notes in the margins, highlight details, and circle names. Then they go back into the field. They re-interview neighbors, old friends, and past suspects. Some people are tired of answering the same questions. Others say they barely remember the night anymore. The detectives chase tips that sound promising. Someone claims they saw a suspicious car parked near the river that night. Another says they overheard a man bragging about hurting a cop. But every lead ends the same way. Nothing. Months pass and the new detectives feel the same frustration as those before them. The trail is old, the clues thin, the answers hidden. Eventually their energy fades. Another detective is assigned. The cycle begins again. The case isn't forgotten, but each fresh start leads to the same cold wall. Karen's file remains a mystery no one can crack. By the mid-1990s, science begins to change. DNA testing becomes more powerful. New databases allow police to check fingerprints and criminal histories across the country. Forensic labs can pull information from evidence that once seemed useless. For families of missing persons, this brings hope. Some cold cases are solved after years in the dark. But not for Karen. Her case has one crushing problem: no physical evidence. There is no body, no weapon, no clothing, no blood. The only major clue is her abandoned patrol car. And that car was searched so many times, nothing new remains to test. Detectives talk with labs, asking if there's any way to recover something, anything, from the items left behind. The answer is always the same: there's nothing usable. As technology races forward, the Mills family watches other families get closure. Headlines appear: cold case solved with DNA. But their story never makes the news. Hope fades a little more each year. The tools exist, but without evidence they are useless. For Karen, the silence continues. Even after years, Karen's name doesn't leave the town. It becomes something people whisper about in coffee shops, at church, or while locking their doors at night. Parents warn their kids with her story. If it could happen to a police officer, it could happen to anyone. The younger generation, who were just kids when she disappeared, grow up with the mystery hanging over them. They never forget the fear that spread through the town that night. Her case becomes a kind of warning sign. Strangers walking down dark roads are viewed with suspicion. A parked car near the river is enough to spark whispers. People remember Karen, and they remember that she vanished without a sound, without a trace. Even as new families move in, the older neighbors keep the story alive. They point to the patrol car that was found empty. They talk about how the search went on for weeks. They explain how no one ever found answers. The disappearance isn't just a mystery. It's a scar on the town itself. Karen's name lingers like a shadow, a reminder that safety can vanish in an instant. Inside the police station, Karen's face never leaves. A framed photo of her in uniform hangs on the wall, right by the roll call board. Every officer passes it on their way in and out. For the department, it's not just a tribute. It's a reminder of a painful truth. They failed to protect one of their own. The older officers who searched the night she vanished still feel the guilt. They wonder if they missed something, if they could have done more. The younger officers who joined years later grow up in the shadow of her case. They learn about Karen as part of their training, as if her story is built into the station itself. During quiet moments, officers stand in front of her photo. Some whisper promises. "We won't forget you, we'll keep trying." But as time passes, even they know the trail is cold. Every day, the weight hangs over them. Karen isn't just another missing person. She was a sister in uniform, and her absence feels like a failure carved into the walls of the station. Time doesn't stop, even when a family wishes it would. Days turn into months, months into years. Before anyone realizes it, nearly 2 decades have gone by. Karen's parents grow older, their hair turning gray. Birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries pass with the same empty chair, the same unanswered questions. Her siblings start families of their own, but every milestone feels incomplete. There is always one face missing from the photographs. The town also changes. New businesses open, new families move in, but Karen's story never leaves. For older residents, it remains the nightmare they can't explain. For younger ones, it's a cautionary tale told in hushed voices. At the police station, her case file gathers dust. Detectives glance at it from time to time, but without new leads, there is nothing to do. The file sits heavy, a reminder of unfinished work. 19 years after she vanished, the truth still lies hidden. For her family, her friends, and her fellow officers, it feels like her fate has been buried under silence. The question isn't just what happened to her, it's whether anyone will ever find out. It's a hot summer afternoon in 2007. A young boy wanders down to the riverbank near his home. The water is low and the mud is thick and sticky from the heat. Like most kids, he's not there for anything important. He's just exploring, skipping rocks and poking at things in the mud. The boy notices something sticking out of the riverbank, half buried. At first, he doesn't think much of it. This river often carries trash downstream, old bottles, scraps of plastic, even pieces of wood. But something about this object looks different. It's a small patch of dark blue sticking out from the mud like a piece of cloth. The boy squints at it, wondering what it could be. He kicks at it with his shoe, expecting it to crumble apart like a rag. But it doesn't. It holds firm, almost like it's still connected to something deeper in the ground. Curious, the boy kneels down and digs at the mud with his hands. Slowly, the patch becomes clearer. It isn't just a random scrap. It's a piece of fabric thick, stiff, and darker than normal clothing. Something about it feels strange. Something about it feels old. The boy pulls harder at the fabric. Mud clings to it, stretching as if it doesn't want to come loose. Finally, a larger piece comes free, wet and heavy in his hands. He stares at it. The color is faded but still clear enough to see it's blue, not the blue of jeans or a t-shirt. This is darker, thicker, and sturdier. It feels like a uniform. The boy doesn't know exactly what it is, but he knows it's not just trash. He flips it around in his hands. The edges are torn, jagged, as if ripped apart years ago. The fabric smells musty, like old water and decay. Confused, the boy runs home, holding the fabric out in front of him. His parents take one look and know this is serious. They call the local police. When officers arrive, they study the fabric carefully. Their faces tighten. This isn't just some random piece of clothing. It looks official, and the shade of blue matches something they've seen before, a police uniform. Right away, they secure the area. What started as a boy's discovery now feels like the start of something much bigger. The police tape off the riverbank and call in investigators. Soon, unmarked cars pull up and plainclothes detectives step out, their expressions tense. The boy's discovery is now treated like evidence. Officers carefully remove more of the mud around the cloth. What they find chills them. The material isn't random, it has seams, stitching, and reinforced edges. It's not a shirt, it's part of a uniform. Detectives whisper among themselves as they spread the piece out on a clean surface. The shade of blue is familiar. For a moment, no one speaks. Then, one officer finally says what they're all thinking. This looks like one of ours. More digging uncovers other fragments nearby, scraps of fabric metal pieces, something that might have once been a badge. The items are worn, torn apart by years in the mud, but they tell a clear story. This isn't just trash from the river, it's evidence, and it looks like it's been hidden here for decades. The investigators realize they may be standing at the first real break in a case that has haunted them for nearly 20 years. The discovery is grim, but it could finally hold answers. The cloth is rushed to a state lab for testing. Forensic experts lay it out under bright lights, photographing every inch before running chemical tests. Despite the years underwater, the fabric still holds details that can be examined. Lab technicians confirm it's not just any uniform. The stitching, the fabric weight, and even faint traces of lettering on the inside tag match police-issued gear from the late 1980s. When investigators compare it to archived records, the conclusion hits hard. The piece belonged to Officer Karen Mills, the traffic officer who vanished in 1988. For nearly 2 decades, there had been no physical evidence, no blood, no body, no sign of her. Now, suddenly, here was a torn piece of her uniform, pulled from the mud by accident. The news spreads quickly through the department and to her family. For them, it's heartbreaking confirmation. After years of silence, the river has finally given up part of its secret. But with the answer comes more questions. If her uniform was here, what else might still be buried in the riverbank? The discovery of the cloth turns the quiet riverbank into a crime scene. By the next morning, crews arrive with floodlights, shovels, and heavy equipment. Yellow tape flaps in the wind as investigators swarm the muddy shoreline. Teams work slowly and carefully, digging into the bank by hand. Every shovelful of mud is sifted through screens, and every strange object is bagged. At first, it looks like nothing but rocks and roots. But then, more pieces begin to appear. Someone finds a bent metal pin, Another pulls out a leather strap, cracked and blackened from years underground. Soon, the items start to form a disturbing picture. Parts of a police uniform, broken apart and buried in the mud. The biggest find comes when a small, tarnished badge is pulled from the soil. It's hard to read, but with cleaning, the faint numbers are still visible. Alongside it, investigators uncover a belt buckle and more fragments of leather, once part of a duty belt. For the first time in 19 years, the case has real, physical proof. Each piece confirms what everyone feared but could never prove. Officer Karen Mills didn't walk away. Something violent happened here. When news of the Riverbank discovery spreads, the town reacts with disbelief. For nearly 2 decades, people had argued, speculated, and whispered about what happened. Some still believed Karen had left on her own. Others thought she might have been kidnapped and taken far away. But now the truth can't be ignored. Pieces of her uniform, her badge, her belt, her gear were buried just miles from where she vanished. This was no disappearance. This was a crime. The headlines are everywhere. Missing officer's uniform found in Riverbank after 19 years. Reporters flood into town, cameras set up outside the police station, and old wounds rip open again. For her family, it's devastating. The discovery doesn't bring her back, but it confirms their darkest fears. For her fellow officers, it's a punch to the gut. They realize she had been so close the entire time, hidden in plain sight. The town gathers in hushed groups, sharing the same thought. If it could happen to her, an armed officer, it could happen to anyone. Fear, sorrow, and anger ripple through the community once again. After the uniform pieces are uncovered, the riverbank becomes the center of a massive dig. Search teams move in with precision, treating every inch of mud like it might hide the answer. Yellow markers dot the ground, showing spots where items have already been pulled. Shovels scrape the soil, and buckets of mud are hauled away to be sifted. Investigators kneel in the dirt, using brushes and small tools, searching for anything that might be human remains or evidence of a weapon. Every shovelful feels heavy with possibility. The crews know they are standing on ground that once held the officer's final moments. That knowledge drives them to work slowly, carefully. A single fragment of bone, a shell casing, or even a personal item could change everything. Hour after hour, they dig deeper. They find more scraps of leather, small metal snaps, and bits of fabric, but no bones, no weapon, and no obvious clue to how she died. The absence is almost as haunting as the discoveries themselves. Still, the search doesn't stop. Teams widen the perimeter, cutting farther into the bank and probing the riverbed itself. The hope is that somewhere nearby lies the missing piece that will finally explain what happened that night in 1988. When the torn uniform is confirmed to belong to the missing traffic officer, the entire case is brought back to life. Detectives who weren't even on the force in 1988 now sit at desks covered in thick folders of reports, photographs, and transcripts. The case file, once pushed aside, is suddenly the top priority. After 19 years of silence, police officially reopen the investigation. The mood inside the department changes overnight. For years, officers carried guilt that one of their own had vanished with no answers. Now, there's finally a chance to put the pieces together. Detectives begin reviewing everything from the very first night. They reread the reports about her abandoned patrol car, the list of people questioned, and the hundreds of tips that came in during the early days. Details that once seemed unimportant are looked at with fresh eyes. They also bring in forensic experts to re-examine the recovered uniform scraps. Back in 1988, technology couldn't do much with degraded evidence. But in 2007, DNA testing is powerful enough to pull information from even tiny fibers. The hope is simple. If the killer left even a trace of himself on that fabric, science might finally catch him. With the case reopened, investigators start knocking on doors again. They re-interview coworkers, friends, and neighbors of the missing officer. Many are older now, some with fading memories, but the questions are sharper this time. Detectives ask her fellow officers about her last shifts. Did she mention being followed? Was there anyone acting suspicious near her patrol routes? They press her close friends. Did she have secrets? Did she ever say she was afraid of someone? Then they return to the suspects who were questioned in 1988 but never charged. Some are nervous when detectives show up at their door after nearly 20 years. Others act casual, insisting they had nothing to do with her disappearance. But this time, investigators are not relying only on words. They collect new DNA samples, hoping to compare them against the torn uniform. Even the smallest match could change the entire case. For the first time in years, the mystery feels like it's moving again, and in the shadows of the old suspect list, one man begins to stand out, a name that investigators will soon realize they should have never ignored. As detectives dig deeper, one name keeps surfacing. It's a man who lived only a few miles from the riverbank back in 1988. At the time, he was never charged, but his record raised eyebrows even then. He had a history of violent outbursts, bar fights, and run-ins with the law. Witnesses from the old case files had mentioned seeing him near the officer's patrol route the night she vanished. But with no evidence back then, investigators had nothing to hold him on. He slipped through the cracks. Now, nearly 2 decades later, detectives pay him another visit. He's older, but the past hasn't changed. They ask about the night she disappeared. He shrugs, claims he remembers nothing, and insists he had no involvement. His answers are vague, his timeline shaky. Behind closed doors, detectives discuss his name with growing suspicion. Living so close to the river, being spotted on her route, and his history of violence, the pieces are starting to connect. But they need more than suspicion. They need proof. That's when they turn back to the torn uniform pulled from the mud. If he touched it, science will know. The uniform scraps are rushed to a modern crime lab. Technicians carefully cut tiny fibers from the fabric and run them through advanced DNA testing. Everyone knows this is the moment that could make or break the case. Days later, the results come in. Detectives gather in a small office, holding their breath as the lab report is read aloud. The DNA recovered from the torn uniform is a direct match to the man who lived near the river in 1988. It's the breakthrough they've been waiting for. After 19 years of doubt and silence, the science finally speaks. The uniform wasn't just evidence of her presence. It carried proof of her killer. Detectives now believe she pulled him over that night, maybe for speeding or drinking. Something went wrong, and he overpowered her. Instead of calling for help, he dragged her toward the river and tried to erase every trace. The weight of the discovery is overwhelming. What was once only rumor and theory is now undeniable fact. The case is no longer cold. It's burning hot. Detectives sit down with the timeline and begin piecing the night back together. It's late, past midnight in 1988. The officer is driving home after her shift, still in uniform. Somewhere along her route, she spots a car that doesn't look right. Maybe it's weaving on the road. Maybe it's going too fast. She flips on her lights and pulls it over. Behind the wheel is the man who lived near the riverbank, the same man with a history of violence. Maybe he had been drinking. Maybe he had drugs. Either way, he knew a DUI or arrest could land him in jail. She steps out of her patrol car, calm but firm, like she's done hundreds of times before. But instead of cooperating, he panics. He gets out, confronts her, and things turn violent. She radios nothing. She never gets the chance. He overpowers her quickly, fueled by desperation and rage. He drags her away from her car, leaving behind her coffee, her hat, her keys. For years, the scene looked like a mystery with no answer, but detectives now see it clearly. She didn't walk away. She was taken in that moment. The man knows he's gone too far. A uniformed officer isn't just any victim. Killing her means life in prison, maybe worse. So he does what desperate men often do. He tries to hide the evidence. Investigators believe he dragged her to the riverbank under cover of darkness. The current was high that spring, and the mud along the water was thick and heavy. It was the perfect place to bury a secret. He forced her body down into the soft ground, pushing her deeper and deeper until only the river knew where she lay. The torn uniform, the badge, the belt buckle, all of it trapped in silence for nearly 20 years. That's why no one could find her. Not the helicopters, not the dogs, not the endless volunteers with flashlights in the night. She was right there all along, hidden just deep enough that the world moved on without answers. Now the evidence from the riverbank explains everything. The sudden vanishing, the empty patrol car, the 19 years of silence. For the first time, detectives know what really happened. And this time, there will be no escape for him. 19 years. That's how long the town lived under the weight of one question. What happened to her? For almost 2 decades, rumors had filled the silence. Some believed she ran away. Others swore she was buried in some hidden grave. Families warned their kids that if a police officer could vanish, anyone could. Now finally, the answer is here. The torn uniform, the DNA match, the reconstruction of that night, it all points to one man. He wasn't a stranger from far away. He was someone who lived right there beside the river, walking the same streets as everyone else. Detectives hold a press conference. Cameras flash. Reporters scribble. The sheriff announces that after 19 years, the mystery is solved. The missing officer was not lost in some accident. She didn't leave on her own. She was taken, attacked, and hidden by a violent man who thought he could bury the truth forever. The town reacts with a mix of emotions: shock, anger, even relief. People cry openly in the crowd. Her family, sitting in the front row, finally hears the words they waited almost 2 decades to hear. We know what happened to her. The case that haunted the town for 19 years has finally cracked wide open. The knock comes early in the morning. Police cars roll up to a small house near the river, lights flashing but sirens off. Neighbors peek from behind curtains, whispering. After 19 years, the man who lived among them, hiding in plain sight, is about to face justice. Officers surround the home. Guns are drawn. The lead detective calls out his name, ordering him to step outside. At first, there's silence. Then the front door creaks open. The man stands there, older now, with gray in his beard. For a moment, it looks like he might deny everything again, but there's no escape this time. 2 officers move forward quickly. The sound of handcuffs clicks around his wrists, the same wrists that once struck the officer down nearly 2 decades earlier. The arrest is quiet, almost anticlimactic, but for those watching, it's the moment they've waited for. As he's placed into the back of the patrol car, reporters rush forward, shouting questions. He keeps his head down, refusing to speak. The lead detective finally breathes. After all the dead ends, all the false leads, after almost giving up hope, they have him. The man who thought he could bury the truth has been caught. Months later, the courthouse is packed. Reporters set up outside before sunrise. Every local TV station runs live coverage. Inside, the courtroom is standing room only. In the front row sits the missing officer's family. Her parents, now aged by grief. Her siblings holding hands. They've waited almost 20 years for this day. Their faces are tight with both fear and relief. They're finally going to hear what happened. Across the room, the suspect sits at the defense table in a plain suit. He looks smaller here, no longer the shadowy figure of rumor and fear, but a man who will finally answer to the truth. The prosecution lays out their case. They show photos of the riverbank, the torn uniform, the badge. They tell the jury how DNA tied the man to her clothing. Each detail feels like reopening a wound, but it's proof that can't be denied. The defense tries to cast doubt, but the evidence is overwhelming. The jury listens in silence, every word heavy with meaning. For the family, the trial is painful. But for the first time in 19 years, the truth is not hidden in the dark. It's being spoken aloud. The courtroom grows heavy as the prosecutor begins to explain what investigators believe happened that night. Photos are shown on a large screen, the uniform fragments, the muddy badge, the riverbank where pieces of her story were found. Step by step, the prosecutor walks the jury through the likely chain of events. The officer had pulled over a driver, likely for speeding or drinking. She followed procedure, but the man didn't want to go back to jail. He lashed out. She was caught off guard, overpowered, and taken down near the river. Her family sits only feet away, listening. Her mother clutches a tissue. Her father stares straight ahead, his hands shaking. Her siblings bow their heads, unable to look at the images being displayed. Each detail is like hearing the loss for the first time all over again. The prosecutor explains how he dragged her to the riverbank, hiding her body under layers of mud and earth. He thought no one would ever find her. For nearly 2 decades, he was almost right. The courtroom is silent except for quiet sobs. The truth has finally been spoken out loud, and it hurts more than anyone imagined. After weeks of testimony, evidence, and arguments, the case finally rests in the jury's hands. 12 people disappear into a room, tasked with a choice that will decide everything. Hours pass. The family waits in the hallway, nerves raw, detectives pace. Reporters crowd outside, cameras rolling. Then word spreads the jury has reached a decision. Everyone rushes back inside. The judge takes the bench. The defendant sits stiffly at the table, eyes forward, trying to hide his fear. The foreperson stands, holding the paper that carries the verdict. The judge asks, "How do you find the defendant?" The foreperson's voice is steady, "Guilty." For a moment, silence. Then the room erupts. Gasps, tears, cries of relief. Her mother breaks down, leaning into her husband's arms. Officers in uniform bow their heads, some wiping their eyes. Reporters sprint for the door to deliver the headline. The man who stole her life is finally held accountable. The judge bangs the gavel, calling for order. But in that moment, no one can contain the emotion. After 19 years of darkness, justice has finally spoken. Outside the courthouse, cameras flash as the officer's family steps up to a cluster of microphones. Reporters wait, notebooks ready, but the family's faces say it all. This is a moment filled with both relief and unbearable pain. Her mother speaks first, voice trembling. "We are thankful the truth has finally come out. We waited 19 years to hear what happened to our daughter. Now we know." She pauses, clutching her husband's hand. But knowing, it hurts more than we can ever say. Her brother wipes his eyes and leans into the microphone. "She was strong, she was brave, and she was stolen from us in the worst way. We are grateful justice has been served, but we will never stop missing her." The family thanks the detectives who refused to give up, the volunteers who searched in those first desperate weeks, and the community that carried their pain for so long. As reporters shout more questions, the family quietly steps away. Relief and heartbreak sit side by side on their faces. They finally have answers, but the details of her final night will haunt them forever. Months later, a crowd gathers at the state police memorial. Officers in full dress uniform line the steps, badges shining in the sun. In the center stands a black stone wall carved with names of the fallen. Today, one more name is added, hers. A bugler plays a slow, mournful note. Officers raise their hands in salute as her name is read aloud. Her family sits in the front row, holding one another as tears run down their faces. One by one, fellow officers step forward, laying white roses at the base of the stone. Some pause to touch her name, etched forever into the memorial. The chief of police speaks to the crowd. She served with honor. She wore the badge proudly. And though her life was stolen too soon, her sacrifice will never be forgotten. The community stands behind the family, silent but strong. Neighbors, teachers, friends, all gathered to remember. Her name is no longer just part of a mystery. It's now part of history, honored and respected. The ceremony closes with a final salute, a promise that she will never be erased. In the quiet after the trial, detectives gather in the squad room. Some were young officers when she vanished. Others joined years later, picking up the case when it had already gone cold. Together, they reflect on the journey. One detective stares at her photo on the wall. "The answer was there the whole time," he says softly. "Buried by the river. We drove past it. We searched near it. And for 19 years we never knew." Another detective adds, "This case taught us something. Sometimes it isn't about lack of effort. It's about how well the truth can hide, and this one hid in plain sight." They admit the weight the case put on them. Every lead that failed, every family phone call they couldn't answer, it never left them. Some carried guilt, believing they had let her down. Others carried anger, knowing someone out there was living free while her family suffered. Now, with the truth revealed, the detectives feel both relief and regret. Relief that the town finally has answers. Regret that it took nearly 2 decades to find them. The river kept its secret, and only time and persistence finally forced it to give it back. Her story does not end in the courtroom. It lives on in the hearts of her family, her fellow officers, and the town that carried her memory for 19 years. For officers, her disappearance is a reminder of the risks they face each time they put on the uniform. She was trained, armed, and careful, yet in one moment her life was taken. Her case shows how fragile safety can be, even for those sworn to protect it. For families, her story is a lesson in endurance. 19 years of waiting, of birthdays and holidays with an empty chair, of hope fading but never dying. Their strength kept her name alive until justice arrived. At the memorial wall, children read her name and asked their parents who she was. Her story is told again and again, not just as a tragedy, but as a warning and a symbol of courage. The town will never forget the silence that followed her vanishing, or the shock when the river finally gave up its secret. Her legacy is not just about loss. It is about courage, persistence, and the truth that no matter how long it takes, hidden crimes can still be brought to light.